My name is Paul Peterson, and I am 72 years old. I was polishing my shoes, getting ready for my weekly Tuesday dinner at my daughter's house. I was just deciding which bottle of wine to bring a good Cabernet she likes when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Mr. Harrison, my lawyer for 30 years. He never texts. 4 words lit up the screen, burning themselves into my memory. Call me immediately. My heart seized. I put the wine bottle down. My hand was shaking so slightly I almost didn't notice. I dialed. Harrison didn't say hello. He said, "Paul, where are you? Are you alone?" His voice was urgent. "I've just received a formal legal request. An attorney downtown representing Amelia Hayes has petitioned for your complete medical and financial records. Paul, your daughter is preparing to have you declared legally incompetent." I stood there in my own quiet house and learned that my only child was planning to destroy me. She was filing for a conservatorship. She wanted to take everything, and in that moment, I made a choice. I was still going to that dinner. I was going to look my betrayer in the eye. Before I tell you what happened at that dinner, what truths I uncovered, and what plan my dead wife set in motion 5 years ago to stop this very day, let me know in the comments where you are listening to this story from. And please hit like and subscribe if you have ever had to fight for your own dignity. And my ears roared with a white noise like the sound of a distant rushing waterfall. Incompetent me, I am Paul Peterson. I am a retired structural engineer. I built bridges that are still standing, marvels of steel and concrete designed to withstand forces 100 times greater than themselves. My mind, my entire life has been about precision, about logic, about structure. And just last week, my doctor, a man 20 years my junior, told me I had the heart and mind of a 50-year-old. I had just completed my annual physical. I still manage my own 6-figure stock portfolio, and I do it well. Paul, are you there? Harrison's voice was sharp, pulling me back from the edge. I'm here. My voice was a rasp. Conservatorship. On what grounds? They're claiming significant cognitive decline. Harrison read from the document, his tone laced with disgust. They allege you are susceptible to undue influence and are making erratic and concerning financial decisions. Erratic decisions. A cold, bitter laugh almost escaped me. My erratic decisions. Was he talking about the $200,000 I gave Amelia for the down payment on her palatial home in Medina? A neighborhood she and her husband Rick had no business living in. I told my wife Emily it was a loan, but we both knew it was a gift. Or was he? Talking about the $30,000 a year I've been paying for my grandson Kyle's private school? He needs the best start, Dad. She had cooed. This is his future. I am a widower. My wife, my wonderful Emily, has been gone for 5 years. 5 years of a silence in this house that is so loud it sometimes feels like a physical presence. Amelia and Kyle are all I have left. I thought I was being a father, a grandfather. Thought I was building a legacy of love and support. I see now with a terrible, blinding clarity that I was just building their case. In their eyes, I wasn't a father. I was a resource, a bank vault that was getting old and needed a new set of managers. Harrison, I interrupted my shock, congealing into something hard and cold. Anger. I have dinner at her house tonight. My weekly Tuesday dinner. Paul, you must cancel. Absolutely not, he insisted. You cannot go. Say nothing. You're ill. We need to strategize. You are walking into the lion's den. A grim smile touched my lips. No, I said, my voice low and steady. The engineer in me was taking over. The part of my brain that sees a stress fracture and immediately calculates the load. I am going. I have to go. I have to act as if I know nothing. I want to look her in the eye while she lies to me. I want to see what this is. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Harrison has known me for half my life. He knew Emily. He knows I am not a man who runs. All right, Paul, he said, his voice heavy. All right, but you are a witness. Do not engage. Do not argue. Out. Do not, under any circumstances, drink anything. You don't open yourself. Do not sign anything. Not a birthday card, not a dinner napkin, nothing. You observe, you smile, and you leave. Come to my office the moment you're done. I don't care what time it is. I'll be waiting. We hung up. I looked at the expensive Cabernet I had set out, the one I knew was her favorite. I put it back in the cellar. I went to the pantry and found a cheap bottle of red blend I'd been given. At a neighborhood barbecue, if I was attending a performance, I wasn't going to waste the good props on the actors. I drove my car across the 520 bridge, a structure I had consulted on decades ago. The cold, dark waters of Lake Washington churned below. The Seattle rain had started a miserable cold drizzle that blurred the city lights into a watercolor of smears. I thought about the foundations of that bridge, the steel pylons driven deep into the bedrock to hold against the wind and the water. I had built my family on what I thought was bedrock: love, sacrifice, duty. I was discovering tonight that it was built on sand, and the tide was coming. When I pulled into the sweeping, circular driveway of Amelia's home, the house was blazing with lights. It was $3 million Australian monument to consumption, and I had paid for the front door. My son-in-law Rick opened it before I could even ring the bell. He has the perpetually damp handshake and insincere smile of a failed car salesman. "Paul, hey, you made it. We were starting to worry you forgot. I never forget." "Rick," I said, handing him the cheap wine. "It's Tuesday, family night." He glanced at the label. Flicker of disappointment so fast I might have missed it if I wasn't looking. "Great. Amelia's in the kitchen, just putting the finishing touches on." I stepped inside. The foyer was 2 stories high, with a chandelier that cost more than my first car. The floors were imported Italian marble floors I'd helped pay for. The smell of roasted garlic and rosemary filled the air, but all I felt was a cold nausea. Amelia glided out of the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron that looked like it had never seen a genuine food stain. She was 45, beautiful, and the spitting image of her mother. But where Emily's eyes were filled with warmth, Amelia's were bright, hard, and assessing like a jeweler looking for flaws. "Dad," she chirped, coming over to hug me. I braced myself. The embrace was dry, practiced. It didn't have the warmth of a daughter. It had the calculation of a co-conspirator. It felt like she was measuring me. "You're here. How are you feeling?" "I'm fine, Amelia." "Just fine," I said, forcing a smile. "Smells wonderful." The dinner was an agonizing, carefully staged play. Rick dominated the conversation, rambling about some new cryptocurrency venture he was exploring. This from a man who had bankrupted 2 businesses and whose only source of income was his wife's commissions and my checkbook. I just nodded, ate my food, and watched them. I watched the way Amelia would correct him with a sharp little glance. I watched the way my grandson Kyle sat at the table, his eyes glued to his phone, completely disconnected. This was the family I was erratically funding. Then over dessert, Amelia made her move. She set down her fork, placed her manicured hand on mine, and gave me her most concerned, loving smile. "Dad," she said, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. "We've been thinking. We're worried about you, Paul." Rick chimed in, suddenly serious. "It's just you have so much on your plate," Amelia continued, her thumb rubbing a little circle on the back of my hand. "You've worked your entire life. You've done so much for everyone. You deserve to rest. You don't need to be worrying about stocks or property taxes or managing the house." I looked right into her eyes. "My daughter, my only child." "What are you suggesting, Amelia?" "I'm suggesting just that you let us help," she said. "Rick and we can take over the day-to-day. We can manage the finances, make sure all the bills are paid. You can just relax, enjoy your retirement. You wouldn't have to worry about a single thing." There it was. The velvet-gloved hand closing around my life. The polite, loving, reasonable-sounding prison sentence. They wanted to help manage, in the same words Harrison had warned me about. They wanted to take control. I looked at her, at my son-in-law, and I smiled. It was the coldest smile of my 72 years. I felt a strange, icy calm settle over me. The engineer was back. The problem was defined. "You know, sweetheart," I said, patting her hand. "That's a very generous thought. A very good idea. Let me think about that." The flash of triumph in her eyes was sickening. She thought I had taken the bait. She thought I was the confused, forgetful old man she was painting me to be. "Of course, Dad, you just think about it," she said, all warmth and relief. The rest of the dinner was a blur. I excused myself shortly after. At the front door, Amelia gave me another one of her cold, dry hugs. She held on a little too long. "Drive safely, Dad," she whispered into my ear, her voice full of that fake concern. "You know, you've been so forgetful lately. We just worry. It wasn't a warning. It was a threat. It was the final nail. "Don't you worry about me, Amelia," I said, patting her on the back. "I'm clearer than I've been in years." I got into my car. My hands were steady on the steering wheel. I didn't drive home. I didn't drive back to my empty house. I drove through the rainy, dark streets of Seattle, the wipers beating a steady rhythm like a war drum. I drove straight downtown to the glowing windows of Mr. Harrison's law firm. He was on the 10th floor, and as I pulled up, I could see the light was on. He was waiting. The war had just begun. I walked into Harrison's office at 9:15 p.m. The rain was streaming down the 10th floor windows, turning the lights of downtown Seattle into a blurred, watery mess. Harrison hadn't even taken his suit jacket off. He had a stack of papers on his mahogany desk and 2 cups of black coffee that must have been sitting there for an hour, cold and bitter. He didn't bother with greetings. "How was it?" he asked, his voice low. "Exactly as you predicted," I said, shrugging off my wet coat. "She offered to help manage my finances." "Oh." "She told me I've been forgetful." Harrison nodded grimly, pushing one of the cold coffees toward me. I ignored it. He tapped the stack of papers. "They filed the initial petition this afternoon just before the clerk's office closed. That's what triggered the alert. They are moving fast, Paul. Faster than I expected." He picked up the top sheet. "This is the core of their case, and it's ugly." He slid the paper across the desk. It was a preliminary declaration, a list of concerns compiled by Amelia's attorney. "This isn't just Amelia's word against yours. Harrison said they've already retained an expert. They have a name," pointed to a line. "Dr. Julian Croft, a forensic psychiatrist." I'd never heard of him. And Harrison said, leaning forward, "Dr. Croft is what we in the legal world call a hired gun. He's a professional witness. He has a very lucrative, very specific specialty. He testifies in contested conservatorship hearings, and he almost always finds that the person in question is gravely disabled or lacks capacity." I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the rain outside. "You're saying he's a fraud?" "I'm saying Harrison chose his words carefully, that Dr. Croft has a reputation for finding whatever conclusion the person paying his $20,000 retainer needs him to find. He's smooth, he's convincing, has all the right credentials from Johns Hopkins. And he will be the weapon they use to destroy your credibility in court." Suddenly, the pieces from the dinner clicked into place. The fake concern, the pointed comments, the anecdotes. I said the word "tasting like ash." "Preciso," Harrison said, tapping another page. "A house of cards built on a foundation of lies. They can't just walk into court and say Paul Peterson is old. They have to build a narrative. And Amelia is the star narrator." He began to read from the page, his voice flat, emotionless. "On October 10th, my father paid the gas company's bill twice and failed to pay his electricity bill, causing a lapse in service." "Is that true, Paul?" "No," I said, my anger rising. That's a distortion. I switched to automatic payments online. There was an overlap of one day. The lapse was a planned 30 nut service switch. I was there for it." "It doesn't matter," Harrison said. "Here's another one. My father frequently forgets where he has parked his car, leading to hours of confusion. He has lost his house keys 3 times this month alone." "That's a lie," I snapped. "I have a new car. The key fob is different. I pressed the wrong button once, and the alarm went off once, and the house keys. I was installing a new deadbolt. I had 3 sets of keys on the counter. She's twisting everything." "Of course she is," Harrison said. "That's the point. She isn't trying to prove these things to you. She's building a file for Dr. Croft. She will feed him these half-truths, these twisted memories. She'll tell him about you forgetting the time tonight. She will paint a picture of a brilliant man in rapid, tragic decline. Croft will then, for a hefty fee, write a 7-page report diagnosing you with early-onset dementia or age-related cognitive impairment. He will state under penalty of perjury that you are a danger to yourself and your own estate. By the time we get in front of a judge, it's not Amelia's word against yours. It's your word against a board-certified expert from Johns Hopkins." I sat back, the mechanism of the attack now laid bare. It was a terrifyingly simple, elegant, and evil piece of engineering. So they weren't just attacking my character. They were attacking the very foundation foot of my identity. My mind, my competence. I looked at Harrison. The old anger, the hot red emotional anger, was fading. It was being replaced by the cold, precise calculations of an engineer. When a structure is under attack, you don't curse the storm. You reinforce the load-bearing walls. You find the weak points in the attack. So I said, my voice steady now. They have a hired gun, and they are feeding him ammunition. This Dr. Croft, he hasn't met me yet. No, Harrison said. That will be the next step. They will file a motion to compel you to submit to a psychiatric evaluation by him. Good, I said. Harrison raised an eyebrow. Good. Good, I repeated. Because we know his name, we know his game, and we know exactly what lies he's been told. He is expecting to meet a confused, forgetful old man. He is expecting the person Amelia described. He is not expecting me. So I said, my voice quiet in the dim office. We know their strategy. We know they're expert, but I still don't understand the why. Harrison, this isn't just greed. This is monstrous to do this to her own father. Why? Harrison leaned back in his leather chair, the springs groaning in protest. He steepled his fingers, looking at me over the top of them. Because, Paul, he said, you are confusing them with rational people. They are not. They are desperate, and desperate people do monstrous things. He swiveled his chair to his computer monitor and clicked his mouse a few times. I took the liberty of running a preliminary asset and debt check on Amelia and her husband Rick this afternoon, as soon as I got that. Petition, I've been your estate lawyer for 30 years, Paul. Your finances are tied to theirs in ways you helped set up. It wasn't hard to pull the thread. I turned the monitor so I could see it. It was a sea of red numbers and legal names. I thought you were just helping them, Harrison said, his voice flat. I didn't realize the extent of it. They're drowning, I whispered, seeing the figures. Drowning is a polite word for it, Harrison said. Harrison, they are at the bottom of the ocean. Start with the house in Medina, the one you put the $200,000 down payment on. They took out a second mortgage on it 8 months ago for $300,000. That money is gone. He clicked again. A list of creditors appeared. They have over $150,000 in high-interest credit card debt. American Express, Visa, a few store cards from places I've never even heard of. They are servicing that debt by taking cash advances from other cards. It's a classic end-stage pyramid scheme. I felt sick. But Amelia, her commissions, she's one of the top real estate agents in Seattle, she was Harrison corrected. The market has turned, Paul. High interest rates. Nobody is buying $3 million mansions right now. Her income has dropped by 70% in the last 6 months. But their spending, he gestured to the screen, has not, and then he pointed to the killing blow. But all of that is just the appetizer, Paul. This is the main course. He brought up a record of a wire transfer from their joint account, the one tied to the second mortgage. A single transfer, $500,000. What is that? That Harrison said. Is Rick's latest sure thing, a blockchain development startup? It was an unsecured private investment. He essentially gave $500,000 to a man he met at a golf tournament. The company declared bankruptcy 6 weeks later. Money's gone. Evaporated. $500,000. My money. Money from the house I helped them buy. So you see, Paul, Harrison said, turning back to face me, this isn't about you being forgetful. This isn't about them worrying about you. This is about that. He tapped the screen. At $500,000 whole. $150,000. Credit card bill. The second mortgage payment that's about to come due. They're going to lose the house. They're going to lose everything. They're on the brink of catastrophic public humiliating bankruptcy. He let the words hang in the air. And then there's you, he continued, his voice softening just a little. We're sitting over here in your paid-off house with a clean portfolio. You are worth on paper just over $4 million. Finally understood. They're not trying to get another loan from me, I said, the cold truth settling on me. No, Harrison said, you're past that. They know you won't give them $500,000, and even if you did, it wouldn't be enough. They don't need a handout, Paul. They need the whole bank. They are aiming for your entire $4 million estate. The only way to get it, the only way to liquidate your assets to cover their catastrophic losses is to take control. And the only way to do that is to have you declared incompetent. It wasn't just a betrayal. It was a hostile takeover. My daughter wasn't just trying to get my money. She was trying to plug the gaping, hemorrhaging wound of her own failure with it. She was willing to sacrifice my mind, my freedom, and my life to do it. I sat there in Harrison's office, the silence broken only by the hum of the city and the relentless rhythm of the rain against the glass. The hot red anger had passed, left behind something cold, heavy, and infinitely more dangerous. Focus. I was an engineer. I understood structures, and the structure of my daughter's attack was flawed, built on a false premise. She assumed I was weak. She assumed I was unaware. "All right, Harrison," I said, my voice cutting through the quiet. I leaned forward, my hands flat on the desk. "They want to say I'm senile. They want to build a case based on anecdotes of my confusion." Harrison nodded, his expression grim. "That's the playbook, Paul. Then we'll help them," I said. Harrison's eyebrows shot up. "What are you talking about? We fight them. We show the judge your medicals, your financial." "No," I interrupted, not unkindly. "It's not yet. You're thinking like a lawyer. I'm thinking about defense. I'm thinking about offense. They are building a case, but I will be their star witness. They think I'm forgetful. Starting tomorrow, I'm going to be the most forgetful man in Seattle." A slow understanding dawned on Harrison's face. "Paul, that's dangerous. You'd be playing right into there. I'd be setting a trap," said the plan forming in my mind with perfect logical clarity. "Right now they are twisting real events, a key fob, an overlapping payment. But from now on I will manufacture the events. I will be in control of the narrative. Amelia wants a confused old man. I will give her one. I will accidentally call her and ask the same question twice in 1 hour. I will forget a lunch date we never made. I will misplace my keys and call her in a panic to ask if I left them at her house." I stood up and walked to the window, looking down at the wet streets 10 floors below. She is overconfident. Rick is greedy and stupid. They want to believe this is working. So, we will make them believe it. We will let them get comfortable. We will let them get arrogant. We will let them walk so far down this path of lies that when we finally pull the rug out, there is no way back for them. They are expecting a victim. They are not expecting a predator who is pretending to be prey. While I'm acting confused, I continued turning back to him. "You and I will be meticulously documenting their actions. We are on the defense in their story, but in ours they are the criminals, and we are the detectives." Harrison was silent for a long moment, a slow, grim smile spreading across his face. It was the smile of a shark. "Okay, Paul," he said, picking up a pen and a fresh legal pad. "Okay, let's start acting. What's your first line?" The next morning, I woke up before the sunrise. The anger from the night before had cooled and settled, hardening into something cold, heavy, and clear. Purpose. I picked up my phone. It was time to start the performance. It was time to become the man my daughter so desperately wanted me to be. I dialed her number. She answered on the 3rd ring, her voice thick with sleep and impatience. "Dad, it's 6:30. Is everything okay?" I put a slight tremor in my voice, a hint of confusion. Oh, is it? I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I was just looking for the number. For the gardener? The man who fixed the hedges? You don't happen to have it, do you?" I heard a heavy, dramatic sigh on the other end of the line. "Dad, we've been over this. I gave you his number last week." Focus. I was an engineer. I understood structures, and the structure of my daughter's attack was flawed. It was built on a false premise. She assumed I was weak. She assumed I was unaware. "All right, Harrison," I said, my voice cutting through the quiet. I leaned forward, my hands flat on the desk. "They want to say I'm senile. They want to build a case based on anecdotes of my confusion." Harrison nodded, his expression grim. "That's the playbook, Paul. Then we'll help them," I said. Harrison's eyebrows shot up. "What are you talking about? We fight them. We show the judge your medicals, your financial." "No," I interrupted, not unkindly. "It's not yet. You're thinking like a lawyer. I'm thinking about defense. I'm thinking about offense. They are building a case, but I will be their star witness. They think I'm forgetful. Starting tomorrow, I'm going to be the most forgetful man in Seattle." A slow understanding dawned on Harrison's face. "Paul, that's dangerous. You'd be playing right into there. I'd be setting a trap," said the plan forming in my mind with perfect logical clarity. "Right now they are twisting real events, a key fob, an overlapping payment. But from now on I will manufacture the events. I will be in control of the narrative. Amelia wants a confused old man. I will give her one. I will accidentally call her and ask the same question twice in 1 hour. I will forget a lunch date we never made. I will misplace my keys and call her in a panic to ask if I left them at her house. I stood up and walked to the window, looking down at the wet streets 10 floors below. She is overconfident. Rick is greedy and stupid. They want to believe this is working, so we will make them believe it. We will let them get comfortable. We will let them get arrogant. We will let them walk so far down this path of lies that when we finally pull the rug out, there is no way back for them. They are expecting a victim. They are not expecting a predator who is pretending to be prey. While I'm acting confused, I continued turning back to him. You and I will be meticulously documenting their actions. We are on the defense in their story, but in ours they are the criminals, and we are the detectives. Harrison was silent for a long moment, a slow, grim smile spreading across his face. It was the smile of a shark. Okay, Paul, he said, picking up a pen and a fresh legal pad. Okay, let's start acting. What's your first line? The next morning, I woke up before the sunrise. The anger from the night before had cooled and settled, hardening into something cold, heavy, and clear. Purpose. I picked up my phone. It was time to start the performance. It was time to become the man my daughter so desperately wanted me to be. I dialed her number. She answered on the 3rd ring, her voice thick with sleep and impatience. Dad, it's 6:30. Is everything okay? I put a slight tremor in my voice, a hint of confusion. Oh, is it? I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I was just looking for the number. For the gardener? The man who fixed the hedges? You don't happen to have it, do you? I heard a heavy, dramatic sigh on the other end of the line. Dad, we've been over this. I gave you his number last week. Wrote it on the list for you. It's on the refrigerator, the important numbers list. Oh, right, the list, of course. I paused just long enough. Silly me, I must have forgotten. So, you'll be over for lunch today. Noon. Dad, what are you talking about? Her voice was sharp now, the impatience turning to irritation. It's Wednesday. Our lunch day is Friday. Are you feeling all right? Friday, yes. Yes, of course. Just tired. My mistake. I hung up the phone, sat in the kitchen, sipping my coffee, watching the clock. I gave it exactly 1 hour. 7:30 a.m. on the dot. I called her again. This time she answered immediately, Dad. The irritation was undisguised. Amelia, honey, thank goodness. I'm so sorry to bother you again. I can't seem to find the gardener's number anywhere. Do you have it? There was a long, dead silence on the line. It stretched for 5 seconds, then 10. I could hear the gears turning in her head. I could practically hear her processing this new, delicious piece of evidence. This wasn't just a simple mistake. This was a pattern. When she finally spoke, all the irritation was gone. It was replaced by that sickly, sweet, condescending voice, the one she had used at dinner. Oh, Dad, she cooed like she was talking to a child. We just talked about this an hour ago. Remember the number? It's on the list on the fridge, I said, injecting panic into my voice. Dear. Amelia, I don't remember calling you. I don't remember that at all. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I must be more tired than I thought. It's okay, Daddy, she said. The word Daddy hit me like a physical slap. She hadn't called me that in 20 years. It's okay. You just rest. Don't worry about a thing. Maybe I should come over later, to help you organize things. Oh, would you? I said. That would be wonderful. I hung up. The bait was set. My next call was to Harrison. She's on her way, I said, skipping the pleasantries. She thinks I'm losing my mind. Now, about the cameras. I was just about to call you, Harrison said. I'm sending over an installer, a private security consultant I've used for decades. He's discreet. He'll be there in an hour. No. I said, cancel him. I'm a structural engineer, Harrison. Spent my life working with blueprints and sensitive equipment. I can install a few cameras. What I need from you is the law. Washington is a 2-party consent state. I can't just record her. Paul, this is the most important part, Harrison said, his voice dropping to a serious legal tone. You are correct. Washington law. requires that all parties consent to a private conversation being recorded, but the law hinges on that single word, private. The key is the reasonable expectation of privacy. If I come to your house and we go into a bedroom and whisper, we have a reasonable expectation of privacy. But he continued, the courts have repeatedly upheld that there is no reasonable expectation of privacy when one is in the common areas of another person's home. I was already putting on my jacket. So, the living room, my office, exactly that. But we're going to be even better than that. You have an alarm system, correct? With signs posted? I said. On the front lawn and on the windows? Perfect. That's our first layer of implied consent.
How?
But here's the real legal footing. There is no expectation of privacy when you are in someone's home for the purpose of committing a crime and attempting to defraud an elderly person. Conspiring to file a fraudulent conservatorship that Paul is a crime. The recordings will be admissible. I'll stake my license on it. Just make sure the audio is crystal clear. That won't be a problem, I said. I didn't go to a big box store. I drove to a specialty electronics supplier in the industrial district. I didn't buy a prepackaged nanny cam. Bought components. 3 high-definition wide-angle lenses no bigger than a quarter. I bought 3 high-sensitivity audio capture devices, and I bought a secure terabyte capacity server that would upload every second of footage to an encrypted cloud that only Harrison and I had the password to. I am a precise man. I spent the next 3 hours working. I placed the first lens in the bookshelf in my study, nestled between a copy of The Art of War and my old structural engineering textbook. It had a perfect, unobstructed view of my desk and the guest chair. I placed the second in the living room, concealed in the dark wood of the fireplace mantel, aimed directly at the armchair Amelia always chose. The third I placed in the entryway, high in a shadow, giving a master view of anyone coming or going. By 2 in the afternoon, I was finished.
Ow.
I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. I saw my empty living room. I saw my empty office. I heard the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall. The audio was so sensitive I could hear a car pass by on the street outside.
Oh.
My house was no longer a home. It was a stage, and the cameras were rolling. I played the part of the confused old man for the next 7 days. I was a model of decline. I called Amelia to ask what day it was. I forgot to turn off the stove, setting off the smoke alarm just long enough for her to get a panicked call from the security company. I let her help me pay my bills online, watching as she accidentally typed in her own email address as the recovery contact for my primary bank account. She was so patient, so condescending, and so greedy. The following Tuesday, she called. Not me, her. Hi, Dad, she said, her voice bright and cheerful. How are you feeling today? You sound less foggy? Oh, much better, sweetheart, I said. It's just a little tired. Well, that's good. Listen, I have to be in your neighborhood anyway, so I thought I'd drop by. And I have those simple tax forms we talked about, the ones to let Rick and me help you manage things just to make the bills easier. My heart hammered in my chest. This was it. The cameras were on. The server was recording. Oh, I said, injecting the perfect amount of weary resignation. That sounds fine, dear. That sounds simple. An hour later, her white BMW pulled into my driveway. She walked in carrying a designer handbag and a leather-bound folio. She kissed the air near my cheek and sat in the living room, right in the armchair, right in the kill zone of the fireplace camera. You're looking better, Dad, she said, smiling. Amelia, I said, playing my part. You look just like your mother. It was a test, a cruel one, but I had to see. Her smile didn't waver. It didn't even reach her eyes. Thank you, Dad. That's sweet. She unzipped the folio and pulled out a thick stack of papers held together by a binder clip. Now, she said in that same sickeningly sweet voice, this is nothing to worry about. It's just some simple tax forms. Standard stuff. It just lets me and Rick talk to your accountant and handle the bills. You know, simplify things. She placed the papers on the coffee table in front of me. The camera on the mantel had a perfect high-definition view. There are just a few places you need to sign, she said. She fanned the papers out, but kept them neatly stacked. She pointed to the last page. A yellow sign here sticker was affixed to the bottom. Right here, Dad, she said. And as she said it, her left thumb, with its perfectly manicured red nail, pressed down firmly on the top of the page. It wasn't a casual placement. It was a deliberate, calculated move. Her thumb landed precisely on the title of the document. I squinted. Oh my, so many legal words. What does that say up at the top? Her smile tightened. It's nothing, Dad. Just legal jargon. Authorization for taxpayer. Nice. Standard. The lens in the fireplace was capturing every second. Her thumb covering the true title. Her blatant spoken lie. I picked up the pen. My hand shook just a little. I accidentally bumped the stack of papers as I reached for it, knocking them just enough. For one perfect clear-as-day second, her thumb slipped and the camera saw it. The bold all-caps letters. On the top of the page, durable power of attorney. Amelia let out a sharp, irritated sigh. Dad, please be careful. She quickly, forcefully realigned the stack, her thumb slamming back down on the title. Just sign right here. I took the pen, and with a shaky, confused hand, I signed my name. It wasn't my true signature. It was the signature of the victim she wanted me to be. She snatched the paper back before the ink was even dry. Ah! A look of profound relief and triumph on her face. She thought she had it. She thought she had one. She gathered her things. See, all done. So simple. She stood up a conquering hero. I'll take care of everything now, Dad. You don't have to worry about a thing. Oh, thank you, Amelia, I said, looking up at her. What would I do without you? She smiled, kissed the air again, and left. I sat in my chair for a full minute after I heard her car pull away. Then I walked to my office, opened my laptop, and rewound the footage. I zoomed in. Her face, her lies, her thumb, and the title, Durable Power of Attorney. I saved the file. I named it. Exhibit A. Harrison was right. This wasn't just a betrayal. This was a crime, and I had just become the star witness for the prosecution. She thought she had the keys to the kingdom. After she left with the signed Durable Power of Attorney, a document she believed was a simple tax form, the house went quiet, but the game had just escalated. She had her proof of my cooperation. Now she needed the medical proof to back it up. The call came 4 days later. I'd spent that time continuing my performance, letting my confusion ebb and flow. I was waiting for this exact call. Hi, Dad, she said. Her voice was lighter, almost breezy, the sound of a predator that had just cornered its prey. How are you feeling? Oh, Amelia, I said, letting a weary sigh carry through the phone. Bit tired, dear. These old bones. I know, Dad, and that's why I've been thinking. The practiced, concerned voice was back. You know, I have a friend, a wonderful man, Dr. Croft. He's well. He's a specialist in senior health. Helps people, stay sharp and manage their energy. Dr. Croft, the hired gun. My heart beat a steady, cold rhythm. The cameras in my office were listening, recording my end of this conversation. A doctor, I said, injecting a note of suspicion. Amelia, my doctor, says I'm fit as a fiddle. I don't need another doctor. Oh, no, Dad. She laughed, a light, airy sound that was completely false. He's not that kind of doctor. He doesn't poke or prod. He's a friend. He just talks. He's fascinating. He's helped so many of my friends' parents. He's going to be in your neighborhood next week on Thursday. And I thought it would be lovely if he just stopped by for a chat. It's just a simple chat as a favor to me. There it was, the trap. She wasn't going to file a motion to compel me to see him. That would be too confrontational. That would give Harrison a chance to fight it in court. No, she was going to bring the assassin right to my front door under the guise of a friendly house call. She would get his informal evaluation, his report, and then file it with the court blindsiding me.
It was a
smarter, more insidious move than I'd expected. I don't know, Amelia, I said, playing reluctant. I'm not much for chats. Please, Dad, she cooed. For me, it would make me feel so much better just to know you're talking to the best people. He's a friend. It's just a conversation. What could it hurt? Could it hurt? I let the silence stretch. Let her think she was convincing me. I let her think I was a weak old man who could be pressured. Oh, all right, dear, I said with a sigh of defeat. If it will make you happy. What time? Thank you, Daddy. She gushed, the triumph therming in her voice. 10 a.m. Thursday at 10 o'clock. I'll be there too. Of course, just to make sure you're comfortable. You won't have to do a thing. We'll just talk. All right, dear, said Thursday at 10 o'clock. You're the best, Dad. I'll see you then. She hung up. I sat in my chair for a full minute. The trap wasn't hers. The trap was mine. She had just confirmed the time, the date, and the guest list for her own execution. I picked up the phone and dialed Harrison. Oh. He answered on the first ring. "Harrison," I said, my voice perfectly clear. "All traces of the confused old man gone. It's on Thursday, 10 a.m. The hired gun is coming to the house." "Excellent." Harrison's voice came back just as cold. "And Paul, our counter-expert, he's already confirmed. I said he'll be here tomorrow, Wednesday, 24 hours before Croft arrives. We'll have a full, independent, and pristine evaluation in the bank before the fraud ever steps foot in my house." I agreed to Amelia's plan, and my assent was the first click of the trap. The moment I hung up, I called Harrison. "The hired gun is coming. Thursday at 10, I said. "Excellent," Harrison replied, his voice all business. "And our defense is arriving tomorrow." On Wednesday at 9 a.m., a full 25 hours before Amelia's friend was scheduled to arrive, my doorbell rang. This was not a social call. This was Harrison's countermove. The woman standing on my porch was the antithesis of everything I expected. She looked to be in her late 60s with sharp, intelligent eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. She was not the slick, Armani-suited professional I had pictured. She was Dr. Evelyn Alastair, the chief of geriatric psychiatry at the University of Washington Hospital. She was, as Harrison had put it, the most respected and most feared expert witness in the state. She didn't testify for money. She testified when she was outraged. "Mr. Peterson," she said, her voice crisp as she stepped inside. Harrison had prepaid her consultation fee. She was here as a clinician, not a friend. "I understand we have a limited time frame. Shall we begin in your study?" For the next 3 hours, Dr. Alistair put me through the most rigorous mental examination of my life. This was no friendly chat. This was a deep, clinical dive. The cameras were rolling, but for a different reason now. To have a perfect record of this evaluation to contrast with the fraudulent one coming tomorrow. "I am going to conduct a full assessment," she explained, pulling out a binder. "This will include a mini mental state examination, or MMSE, a clock drawing test, and a series of verbal recall and abstract reasoning questions. I will be blunt, Mr. Peterson. My report will reflect exactly what I find. Is that clear?" "Perfectly, doctor," I said. "I am an engineer. I respect data," she began. "I'm going to give you 3 words. I want you to remember them. Apple, table, penny. We will come back to them." She asked me the date, the year, the season, the building we were in, the city, the state. Simple questions. "Then can you count backward from 100 by 7, south?" I did. 10938 679 7265. I finished the sequence without pausing. She made a note. "Now, what were those 3 words I asked you to remember? Apple, table, penny?" I answered immediately. She moved on. She showed me a picture of a complex geometric shape and asked me to replicate it on a blank piece of paper. I am a man who spent his life with blueprints. I drew it perfectly to scale, even noting the angles of the vertices. She looked at my drawing for a long moment. "You're an engineer, I'm told." "Structural," I confirmed. "I designed the supports for the West Seattle Bridge expansion, and you manage your own finances?"
"Do."
"My portfolio is up 9% year over year, which is 4 points above the S&P 500. I rebalanced my tech holdings in January, moving a significant portion into bonds and utilities." Dr. Alistair jotted notes, her face impassive. "And your hobbies?" "I build models. I just finished a 112th scale replica of my childhood home. All hardwood, ash, and maple. It required over 2,000 individual pieces." She looked up from her notes. "Mr. Peterson, are you currently under any unusual stress?" I met her gaze. "Doctor, my daughter is attempting to have me declared legally incompetent so she can steal my dollar. $4 million estate to pay for her husband's $500,000 gambling debts. Is that what you mean by unusual?" A small, thin smile touched her lips. "Yes, that would qualify." She pulled out a fresh sheet. "This is the MMSE," she said. "It's a 30-point scale. Anything above 24 is considered normal cognitive function." She administered the test. The questions were almost insultingly simple. "What is this, a watch? What is this, a pen? Repeat after me. No ifs, ands, or buts. When she was finished, she tallied the score at the bottom of the page. She clicked her pen, then signed her name, and dated it. She looked at me, and for the first time her professional demeanor softened. Mr. Peterson, in my 20 years of practice, I have rarely, if ever, seen this. She turned the paper around for me to see. Your score on the mini mental state examination is 30 out of 30, a perfect score. Your abstract reasoning is in the 99th percentile. Your verbal recall is flawless. She began packing her briefcase. I will have a full 13-page notarized report on Mr. Harrison's desk by 400 p.m. today. It will state unequivocally that you are not only competent, but possess a cognitive function significantly sharper than most men half your age. It will also note, she added, standing up, that you are under extreme duress from a clear and present familial financial threat. She handed me her card. Dr. Croft is a charlatan, she said, her voice suddenly cold. I know his work if he dares to present a contrary finding in court. I will personally be there to see him stripped of his credentials. Have a good day, Mr. Peterson. I stood at my window and watched her get into a modest, sensible car and drive away. It was 9:58 a.m. on Wednesday. Tomorrow, the hired gun was walking into a buzzsaw. I had a baseline, had the truth notarized, dated, and signed by the most unimpeachable source in the state. The trap was no longer just set. It was armed. At 9:58 a.m. on Thursday, the doorbell rang. I watched on the monitor in my study as my daughter Amelia stood on my porch. She was smiling, but her eyes were darting. Around checking the street, beside her stood a man in an impeccably tailored, absurdly expensive-looking suit. He was tall, silver-haired, with a deep tan, and a smile that was all teeth. He looked more like a game show host than a doctor. This had to be Dr. Julian Croft, the hired gun. Okay. Amelia used her own key to open the door. The camera in the entryway captured her noting. She just walked in. Dad, she called out, her voice echoing in the hall. We're here. I came out of my study walking slowly, intentionally. I was no longer the confused old man. Today I was the aggrieved old man. The cameras in the living room and the study were rolling, capturing everything, especially the crystal-clear audio. Amelia, I said, my voice flat. I nodded at the man. This must be your friend. This is Dr. Croft, she gushed. Doctor, this is my father, Paul. Croft stepped forward and offered his hand. It was soft, manicured, and his grip was weak. Mr. Peterson, he said, his voice a smooth, practiced baritone. A genuine pleasure. Thank you for welcoming me into your beautiful home. He's just here. For a chat, Dad, Amelia said, guiding him toward the living room. Right, toward the armchair. Just a conversation. They sat. I sat opposite them on the sofa. The camera on the mantel had a perfect view of all three of us. Amelia perched on the edge of her seat, a picture of the concerned, beautiful daughter. Croft crossed his legs, pulled a small leather-bound notebook from his jacket and smiled. So, Paul, he began, his tone condescendingly warm. Amelia tells me you're a retired engineer. It's fascinating. You must have built some incredible things. I built things that stand up to pressure, Doctor, I said. Wonderful. He made a small note. Amelia also mentioned you've been feeling a bit overwhelmed lately. A bit, shall we say, confused? The first question. The first loaded, leading, gaslighting question. I looked at him and I did not smile. Doctor, I said, my voice cold and precise. I do not feel confused. I feel angry. Croft's smile didn't waver, but his eyes sharpened. Angry. What are you angry about, Paul? I am angry about betrayal. I am angry about ingratitude. I leaned forward just an inch. To answer your original question, I am never confused. The only time I feel a flicker of confusion is when I am forced to deal with blatant, naked treachery. Does that answer your question? Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Amelia's face tighten. This wasn't the foggy old man she was expecting. Croft just chuckled as if I'd told a charming joke. I like that. He made another note. Let's try something simpler just to get a baseline. What day is it today, Paul? I stared at him. It is Thursday, October 12th. The time is 10:14 a.m. You were 10 minutes. Late for the 10 o'clock appointment my daughter scheduled without my consent. You are currently in my home in Seattle, Washington. Would you like the zip code as well? The smile on Croft's face twitched. He looked at Amelia. Amelia jumped in just as I knew she'd see Doctor, she said, her voice full of false tears. This is what I mean. He's so agitated, so aggressive. He was never like this. He's paranoid. He thinks everyone is late. He thinks everyone is plotting. Croft nodded sagely at her, then turned back to me. No one is plotting, Paul, he said, his voice like a tranquilizer. We are here to help. Your family is worried about you. Do you often feel that your family is against you? This was the moment, the backstory drip. I let out a long, slow breath. I looked away from him toward the fireplace where a picture of my late wife Emily sat. My wife Emily. I started letting my voice crack just a little. Before she died, she told me something. We were arguing about Amelia. I was giving her money for the house, for everything. And Emily told me to stop. She said, Paul, you have to see it. Amelia loves your money more than she loves you. I turned back to Croft. His face was a mask of clinical interest. I was furious. I saved the memory of that fight very real. I told her she was wrong. I told her not to ever say that about our daughter. I yelled at her. It was one of the last real conversations we ever had. And I yelled. I let the silence sit for a moment. And now, I said, looking right into Dr. Croft's soul, I find myself in a chat with a stranger in my own home, a man my daughter hired to see if. First page. The date in the top right corner made my breath catch in my throat. It was dated 6 years ago, just 1 week. 1 week after her terminal cancer diagnosis. 1 week after the doctors told us she had at most a year. I began to read her words. My dearest Paul, the letter began. If you are reading this, it means I am gone, and it means you have found this key. I am so sorry, my love. I am sorry for the secret. My hands were shaking. I sat in that sterile, silent bank vault room and unfolded the thick pages. The date was 6 years ago. It was the exact week. The oncologist had sat us down in his office and told us the cancer had spread, that it was terminal. A year, he'd said. I began to read her familiar, perfect handwriting swimming before my eyes. My dearest Paul, the letter began. If you are reading this, it means I am gone, and it means you have found this key. I am so sorry, my love. I am so sorry for this secret. A wave of dizziness hit me. Secret from Emily. In 47 years of marriage, we never had secrets. I lived my life by her honesty. I am writing this. I read on my voice. Dry whisper in the week after the diagnosis, a week where I have felt nothing but terror. But I am an accountant's daughter, Paul, and you are an engineer. We are planners, and I have realized with a terrible cold clarity that I have to plan for 2 deaths. The death of my body from this disease, and the potential death of our family from a disease I've seen for years. Greed. I stopped. I read the line again. The greed in our own family. Please, my love, do not be angry. The letter continued. You are a man of pure, uncomplicated goodness. You see the world as it should be. You see our daughter as the little girl you taught to ride a bike. But I have always seen the world as it is, and I see Amelia as she is. My breath caught. It was the conversation. The one I had confessed to, Dr. Croft, the fight. I love Amelia with every part of my being, Emily wrote, and I could feel her anguish in the words. She is my child, but she is not like you, Paul. She has a hole inside her. A hunger that is not about money, but about what money represents. Status, power, a shield against the world. And her husband, Rick, he is a fool, but he is a gasoline fool. And she is a lit match. And you, my love, you are the house we built. I put the letter down on the metal table, my hand covering my mouth. I felt sick. She had seen it. She had seen it all years before I did. I knew. I picked the letter back up. I knew that when I was gone, you would be vulnerable. Your goodness, your love for her, your grief. They would be the weapons she would use against you. She would see your generosity as weakness. She would see your inheritance not as a gift to be cherished, but as a fund to be drained. She would, in the name of helping you dismantle everything we built together. helping the word her word, the same one Amelia had used, leaped off the page. That fight we had, I read on my vision blurring. The one you will remember where I told you she loved your money and you yelled at me. My heart broke that day, Paul. Not because you yelled, but because I realized you couldn't see. You were willfully blind, and I knew in that.